So I want to welcome Alfred Ruth from Videoplaza, and it's time for a report from the inside of this fast-growing company. And you just got 35 million kroners, right?
Right.
Yay!
Yay! Thanks for that. And sorry about all the screwed up fonts in this presentation, which they are trying to start on the wrong slide as well. Cool, that's our logo. Isn't it nice? Exactly, I was brought here to kind of talk about the kind of being an entrepreneur and the way of life being an entrepreneur. And I actually figured that I was going to do that by actually telling you a couple of stories. I think it's 8 stories from kind of our trip from incubation, or first starting till where we are today. And I'm going to kind of extract some words of advice and learnings during that route as well. But I should probably start off by just telling you what Videoplaza is, because I don't think many of you know what we're doing. Basically, we're about just one thing. We're monetizing online video. I'm Alfred Ruth. I'm one of the founders. We're 3 founders, and I'm in charge of kind of the product. This is basically what I do when I'm not at work or doing this kind of stuff. I'm kind of in love with danger, I guess. But that's just as me being an entrepreneur. But as I said, we have one sole reason of existence, basically, and that's that we're trying to make online video profitable. We kind of started out 2.5 years ago now, I think, and we didn't really know what we wanted to do. We just knew that we had a problem to solve, and that was to make video profitable. But I'm going to get back to that later on. We have grown to be something like, I think we're 19 employees now in 3 countries. We're working with about 25 or 30 media companies in 8 countries. So it's been kind of a fast trip. As they said, we just raised kind of a lot of money that we're building a big European business with. So it's been kind of a fast trip. And we're doing kind of the ad-serving technologies. If you're watching online video on TV4play.se or Kanal 5 in Sweden or any of the others and seeing ads, it's basically our technology behind and our platform that they're using. Anyways, what I'm here for today is the Videoplaza war story, which I tried to make a title of it. And as I said, I'm going to kind of try to tell you 8 real stories about our trip and the learnings from it. The first kind of advice that I'm going to tell you a story about is that, you know, you should, when you're starting a company, you should actually try to solve a problem that someone actually have. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier to build a company if you do. Basically, we started out, Soros, who is CEO of our company and kind of the initial founder of the company, he's the one who kind of started to realize that we should do something about this, and then he brought me and another guy called Dante along. He did this kind of master thesis from KDH at MMS, which, if you don't know, is the kind of institute that measures consumption of TV, basically, the broadcast figures. And he did this study there where he kind of tried to map the consumption of moving images regardless of platform, everything from, you know, the old Steam broadcast TV to the new kind of consumption with illegal file sharing and everything. And what he found out was basically that, you know, time shifting is everything. Everybody that's moving to computer consumption of moving images, they're doing it because they want a time shift. They want to decide for themselves when they are to consume that content. And basically, when he then went out to present this study to the media companies and sold this for a lot more money than it is actually worth, I think. But anyways, he managed to sell it. Basically, what he found out was that he started to talk to them about why aren't you really kind of jumping this train and doing this cool services yourselves? Because this was like, I think, 2007. He did a study during late 2006, and he was launching it early 2007. YouTube had already happened. You know, the technology to stream video online was widely available. So he was kind of asking the companies, why aren't you building the kind of legal streaming services with your content to kind of, you know, block file sharing from existence? Because if we have good services that is easy to use and have a good user experience, well, people are going to use that instead of Pirate Bay. It's going to be easier to do that. And kind of one message he got back was that, you know, well, we really believe that this is the future, but we're having a really good business with our old traditional analog business. And if we would kind of jump this ship and you know, build these services, we would kind of quicken up this development where we're basically would be transforming analog dollars to digital dimes. So in essence, basically, they saw this as a threat to their traditional business rather than an opportunity to build something new. So from that, we kind of realized that, all right, if we could somehow solve the problem of being profitable with online video, regardless of what we do with that problem, as long as we solve that problem, we're going to have a hell of a lot of clients wanting to buy that solution, regardless of what it is, because that's a problem that many of the media companies already have today. And if you take that, you can kind of compare that to a lot of other cool startups, you know, the Twitters out there. There's kind of inventing something new and kind of wanting you to realize that you have a problem that you wasn't aware of before. And that's a much tougher job. Obviously, it's really cool if you are successful with it, but it's a lot bigger risk that you're going to fail. If you know exactly the problem you're solving and who's having that problem, well, as kind of Kaisa was speaking about, then you know who your clients are. And that makes it very much easier to kind of realize what you're going to do. And if you're not building it as a business to business as we are, well, then you know who your users are. And that means that you can build your product for them, which we really did. We kind of got our first client on a sketch before we had, you know, put any code together at all, and we could really build a product for the first client that we had. It's probably going to mean that you're going to meet more competition, because if you're solving a problem that is real and someone actually has, you know, the good chances is that, you know, someone else is also trying to solve that problem. But competition is a good thing, actually. It's a really good thing, because it's kind of proof for you that you're on the right track, that you have a valid kind of perception of the world around you, and that you're not just dreaming that this should be a good idea. And it kind of gives you someone to compare yourself to, and hey, everything is about execution anyway. So you're going to have to excel by execution. ID is just 10% of something. And if you're doing things like we do, business to business, you're selling your technology to another company, well, there's your business model. If you aren't doing business to business, well, then you're going to have to go creative or ask someone else. I have no idea of that. I'm just a rookie when compared to Kaisa. The second kind of word of advice is that it's really, really important to keep your focus when you're building a company. The kind of real-life story from Videoplaza there is that we actually kind of... Can you see it? It's basically... I think it was the spring of 2008. We had been existing for like half a year or so, and we kind of realized how many things we could be doing. And then we talked about them a lot, and then we kind of put together a not-to-do list. And we kind of made it public, so we told everybody, hey, this is the cool ideas that is really buzzing in the world. You know, it was IPTV, mobile phones, blah, 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 blah. And we told everybody, we're not going to do them, because we need to focus on what's really important. So just it's kind of tying in together with the first one. You need to see the problem that you're solving for your client, and then you need to really, really focus on that. And I think putting together a not-to-do list is a very good way of keeping your focus. It kind of makes it obvious for you and everybody else what your focus really is. The cool thing is that now, I think, almost 2 years down the road, you know, we've grown to be 19 people instead of 3 people without salaries. And we're actually doing exactly these things that are on our original not-to-do list. But it really made sense for us to put together a not-to-do list and make it public and not focus on them back then. Because now it's when it makes sense to do it, because obviously the market has matured and we have grown enough to be able to bother about these things as well. So I think a not-to-do list is really something that is important, because there's so many things you could be doing that's kind of connected to the problem that you're somehow trying to solve. And doing everything will certainly lead to failures. You really need to focus. So the most important thing is exactly that, what you choose not to do. So I urge you, go create your own not-to-do list if you're thinking of building a company around an idea that you have. Cool. Are you sleeping? Good. Here comes the funny part. You need obviously to find your co-founders. If you're not, you know, a sole ranger like Ted over there that is, you know, doing everything by himself on his own. If you're like us, you're going to need co-founders. Soros, as I mentioned, was the initial founder of Videoplaza. He was kind of the one who started thinking about this problem, and then he found me and Dante along the way. And I think it's really, really important. I meet so many people that is trying to start companies. I meet really talented kind of tech people that is really a pure CDO in his soul or her soul. And then they kind of lack the business person that would be the CEO, co-founder of that company, and because of that, it eventually fails, or he has to struggle a lot and build too long before he finds the right partner. And on the other hand, I also meet a lot of kind of business people or CEO kind of people trying to start a startup, and there's completely lacking the technical experience and competence to kind of build the tech part of if you're doing an online business, probably chances are pretty good that you're going to need to be good with technology. So I think the real world story from our story there is that basically, I mean, we really had a lot of luck when we found each other. We really didn't know each other a lot, but we kind of found out pretty soon that we were all kind of relaxed people that like to kind of joke around about ourselves. As Dante is 16 years old in his girlfriend's jacket, I think. And by the way, this is Soros on his bachelor party in a mankini. Don't tell him that I showed you this. Let's proceed quickly. But basically what we realized when we kind of, I think 3 or 4 months into the existence of the company, and we had just launched the embryo of the product for Konstfack, which is really a good first client to have and build the product together with. We realized that, hey, us 3 founders, we kind of know everything we need to know to do this. So we had all the competence from tech and the hardcore technology part with Dante to the product side of things, which is my kind of expertise and building the product to fulfill the client's needs, to Soros experience and expertise, which is really the business part, getting it sold, raising that venture capital that you need to do it. So we found that we knew everything we needed to do to build this business. So we weren't lacking kind of a big hole of competence that we needed to fulfill somehow. We could do it, just the 3 of us. The only kind of reason that we wanted to bring more people on to this project was that we wanted to make it quicker, speed things up. If we would have unlimited amounts of time, we could just be the 3 of us, and keep doing it. And I think that's really important, because that means that you have a balance within the company from day one. You have all the fields you're going to be working with covered, at least to some extent. And another really good thing that we have is that we know how to fight, and we know how to make friends again. That's really, really important. I mean, we can almost not have a discussion without raising our voices and people can almost think that we're angry with each other. And we have a situation where being 3 founders has been really good for us, because it means that almost always when there's a discussion, there's a 2 against 1 situation where 2 people think one thing and one other person is alone with his kind of take on it. And that means that you have a majority decision every time. And we also know that whatever the decision is going to be, everybody's going to work for that decision really, really hard. And the next time around, it's going to be someone else who is going to have to give up his opinion. So 3 people has been really good for us, and making sure that we know how to kind of fight and really argue our opinions, and then make a common decision, and everybody is going to respect that decision. No pride in having to give up your own opinion and then just getting on. It's been really, really important for us. And I think also, if you're the kind of initial founder, as Soros was in this case, it's really important to be generous against your other co-founders. It might be that you have been working with a project for 3 or 4 months before you kind of get your partners, and hey, I was the initial founder, so I should own much more of the company than you should. Hey, in 5 years' time or so, those first 3 or 4 months not going to really make a big difference in the bigger picture. And it's really important to kind of have a balance between the co-founders. So I urge you to be generous against your new partners if you're on the hunt for co-founders. Cool. And then obviously a really good advice, I think, is to be ambitious, cocky, and humble. And what do I mean by that? Basically, we raised a lot of hell. We got a lot of attention. We had media writing about Channel 5, Kanal 5 launching this new ad format that we were kind of creating for them before we had anything. So we really we're out there making noise early on, and that was really important for us to kind of gain attention and get people to listen and be successful with this. And I think it's been really important for us to make that kind of noise. This is Soros when he's speaking for someone. He's taking a picture like this when he's speaking. We kind of learned during the trip how to balance our language. This kind of language we learned is probably not the right way to gain attention. Fucking shit. No, we shouldn't mention that again. But it also kind of got us the attention that we needed, so that the clients that we wanted to have at least in Scandinavia, all got to know about us through free marketing because we got a lot of PR basically. And I think that the key to be successful with that is to be bold, and that means that you really need to choose your niche and become thought leaders in that niche. And it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to kind of get attention if you're actually saying that someone else sucks than if you're just saying good things. But obviously, you need to get this attention. You need to raise hell and be disruptive and get attention. But obviously, you also need to be transparent and honest when you're wrong, because you're definitely going to be wrong, at least sometimes, you know. But as long as you're kind of honest with that, and you know, oh yeah, right, that's clever. We didn't think about that. That's cool, you know. Then you're kind of getting away with it, anyways. So it's not going to be too hard to at least if you're prepared to be honest and transparent when you're wrong. And that kind of ties in very good with the next one, I think, which is, you know, you should really keep questioning yourself at all times. You're going to have to be your own worst critic, I think. This is just a few examples from this is actually the initial idea that Soros started to work with as we were founding the company. He called it free TV, which was basically an idea of, you know, instead of making dynamic ad insertions as we're doing today, you should burn the ads into the video files as you kind of make them available, and then you should set them free on file sharing networks and you know, YouTube and everything. And the problem, of course, with this is that you can't deploy it in real life. It won't work for real. It sounds like a good idea, but you know, if you watch Seinfeld from '95, you want to have new ads on that, and you want to be able to measure how many ad impressions you make as you go, you know. So that didn't work out, but it was a good idea that we could kind of create attention around, and then we kept questioning ourselves, and obviously we understood that, okay, this is the wrong track. We can't go this track. This is a quote that we had on our website when we were first launching, and we were trying to save the world with this overlay ad format, which is kind of a banner popping up over the video as you watch the content. And we had this quote on our website that someone smart from the US had mentioned during the conference when we were there. Pre-rolls are like traffic jams, blah, 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 blah. Today we're doing, I think, 90 or 95% of our revenues from pre-rolls, you know. So we had to kind of, all right, we were wrong. We have to do pre-rolls. We're going to have to fix them. And we obviously had to remove this quote from our website somewhere along the road. So it's really, really important that you kind of have an idea of where you're going, and you really go hard in that direction, but you always question if you're really on the right track. I mean, do you believe in your own business? Really? Do you? Or is it just, you know, very comfortable to keep believing in the things that you said that you were going to believe back like 6 months ago? Everybody makes mistakes, so you're going to definitely make mistakes yourself as well. And it's really, really important that you make sure that you're the first one to find out when you have made a mistake. It's going to be much harder to kind of let someone else realize it 6 months down the road. And then you really need to think big. This has been a real kind of hard one for us, I think. I think it's hard as a Swede also to kind of force yourself to think as big as you need to think, basically. This is some early slides of how our market was kind of growing really fast and blah, blah, blah. Today we're kind of doing this. This is kind of our view of the world today, where, you know, we have an old TV that is kind of worth something like 72 billion euros a year or something in an ad market in Europe only. And everything is turning into a new on-demand TV where, you know, the ad technology that we're building is really relevant. So kind of thinking really big about the perception of what we're doing. But why do you need to think big? Yeah, obviously, you know, most businesses online only works at scale. So obviously you need to kind of think to that scale. And we're doing, I think we have a strategy days, you know, every 6 months or so. And when we're preparing for those strategy days, we kind of try to look ahead. Okay, where do we need to be in half year into the future? And we kind of raise this bar to as high as you can almost believe it. And then you have to kind of work with yourself for 2-3 days to just believe that you can actually jump over that bar. And then you need to convince everybody else that that's what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. And it's really kind of hard to work with yourself at all times to kind of believe in that this is possible. But we have managed to do so over and over again. So it's kind of cool when you actually get used to raising your ambitions that much and then believe in it and then actually succeeding doing it. But obviously Sweden doesn't scale, you know, so it's a good test market, but you're going to have to probably think beyond Sweden already from day one. Already day one, when we were just 3 Swedes, you know, we made all documentation, everything that we were doing in English, just because we knew that down the road we're going to have employees that won't speak Swedish, and it's going to be a hell of a job to kind of translate everything to English down the road when we're going to need it in English if we don't start out in English from day one, you know. And investors doesn't care at all unless there's big potential in what you're doing. And if you're somehow looking for venture capital in what you're doing, you're going to have huge potential. So make sure that you have potential in your plan. And that's probably going to mean that you're going to have to look abroad and outside Sweden. And that brings me to raise smart money. I have a background as a journalist, actually. Am I short on time? Sort of, sorry. Okay. You're going to have to raise smart money. I'm going to make the short version of this. I used to work as a journalist. I kind of heard all these terror stories about venture capitalists coming in and screwing up companies up. I have the complete opposite experience. I thought we were just looking for as big a check as possible, and then we would run off with it and make sure that we had all control for ourselves. We really needed the venture capitalists to kind of help us, rookies, you know, build a company and turn it into a real business with the board and everything. This is just some smart people. I want to show you this picture because that's actually the founder of Microsoft Sweden when he has made his switch to a Mac, which is kind of a cool thing. He's on our board now. Unfortunately, he switched back 2 weeks later or something, so he didn't stay with Mac, but it's him with a Mac. You're going to want these smart people, and you want to really use their expertise. Make sure they understand your business, use their expertise to build your business. And if you deliver on a plan that you have agreed with them, they're going to let you do your own thing anyways, you know. So don't be that afraid for investors that, you know, some people are telling you that you should be. Make sure that you find the right people that you can work with, but if you do, then you don't have to be afraid of them. You're going to have to build a really good team, and you're going to have to keep them happy. Because you really rely on your team's passions. You really need to be treating your employees right. And if you fail with all these tips, we're really recruiting people. So, you know, send an application to us. We're growing a lot all the time. We need developers especially, and we need also all kinds of talented people. So please do grab me afterwards or you know, send us an application if you're interested. This is just a summary, so I can jump that. Sorry for running over. Can't work for us. Thank you.
It was really a pleasure hearing you speak about Videoplaza. I was thinking, now that you have venture capital, a whole lot of it, maybe there will be a lot of pressure on you to work harder and more and so. And then we thought that we'd give you someone who can pressure you to stay in shape. Here's a personal trainer.
Ooh, thank you, I need that.